Welcome back, and thanks for this warm introduction. I've never been introduced in such a nice way. Feels great to be here. Great venue, great conference, and great lineup of panelists. We'll be addressing the seamless customer experience through integrated capabilities in a minute. Before that, please allow me just a few words around Outpace. That's the project I'm part of now. I've been working for Amadeus for 14 years. Still part of Amadeus, but Outpace is the new venture and company created to provide regulated payment services to the travel industry. I guess we've reached enough scale and maturity of portfolio in the products, so now it's time to have something dedicated, right? And I have the privilege to be the head of commercial hospitality at Outpace from Amadeus. Now, without further delay, I'd like this gentleman to introduce yourselves, please.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's great to be here. Thanks for inviting me for this panel. My name is Alexander Pyhan. Together with my team, I'm responsible for Marriott global distribution efforts, which includes distribution strategy, the commercial aspects, channel management, connectivity, operations support, and we're working on a number of different projects within the company, including building Marriott's next retail travel platform, which will hopefully be very fundamental for our success going forward.
So never a dull moment, right, Alex?
Well, maybe. We'll talk about it.
Hopefully not in this half hour.
Good.
Hi, everybody. Ian Ackland, Regional Director, Partner Services, Booking.com. Look after the account management services and relationships with all of our properties across North America. I have a background in connectivity, an ex-head and a board member, an ex-organizer of these conferences. So thanks for the invitation.
All right. Danny Finkel, Chief Commercial Officer at TripActions. Actually, this week is my fourth year at TripActions, which makes me one of the lifers there, which is pretty crazy. I was just reflecting on that. I've had like 12 titles while I've been there. But I actually used to really look after all of our travel partnerships, built out our travel ecosystem, built our global infrastructure, corp dev, things like that. But recently moved over to focus on our Fintech business and really helping build out a strategic framework for partnerships, making sure that we have the right ecosystem, making sure that we create a really interconnected system between our travel side and our Fintech side. So perfect opportunity to sort of blend my two worlds together. I am still not a Fintech expert, but I'll try and dabble a little bit, get my feet wet. But yeah, it's really great to be here. I was at Expedia for a while before TripActions, so it's a nice little reunion of sorts with a lot of people. So it's good to see you all.
Cool. Good. We've talked a lot about payments over this day and a half through the conference. We heard Sebastian earlier today mentioning that frictionless payments, it's a hot topic. I would actually like to go maybe a step further, maybe not this conference, but at some point like a vision, like talk about invisible payments. Like we all have experiences buying at Amazon or Uber, and that's great, right? So why not? Aim into that as far as that. We've heard a number of trends, fintech payments like digitalization, especially after the pandemic, like travel companies should adopt mobile capabilities so they can gain that business that is on the rise, of course, bookings via mobile, perhaps through your apps. We've heard about flexible payment solutions to overcome uncertainty for travelers. Beyond cards, beyond virtual cards, why not buy now, pay later flavor, these kind of things. We've heard authentication and security as issues. Yesterday we were discussing also about biometrics, like as a way to check the travel identity, and why not? Invisible payments happening on the back. We've heard about FX, foreign exchange, dynamic currency conversion, multi-currency pricing. Now, here's a question.
Can you start over?
Pardon?
Can you start over, please?
Don't do me this. We have a counter here, it says no. What are each of your organizations doing to address all these trends and keep up with these that we see at the conference and throughout the industry? Maybe Alex, do you want to start?
Sure.
Closest to me?
Sure. That's a long question, right? So let me start off 30,000 foot and then we go a little bit deeper. So first step of solving a problem is recognizing there is one, right? Here's a problem. And obviously I can only speak on behalf of Marriott, but I have a feeling, a lot of the hoteliers here in the room would have a similar feeling. So as a hotel company, we really don't do much about payments, right? We are taking reservations on our various digital platforms, collecting the credit card, tokenize the credit card, sending it down to the PMS, and then leave it to the hotel to deal with the transaction. That's really not a smart way of running a commerce business or actually doing anything to create more stickiness with the customer. So we have to recognize that on the surface we don't do a lot of in payments, and then secondly there is a huge shift in customer trends. Payments will happen with us or without us, and what I mean by that is there's an underlying trend to more digital payments capabilities. Cash is in the decline. Digital payments are growing. And many customers or many companies have recognized Fintech as a core part of their growth strategy to attract customers and to build loyalty. Whoever owns the payment flow owns the customer relationship. It's as simple as that. And so we started at Marriott to recognize it and build a lot of capabilities to take payments above property, to facilitate customer transactions. Obviously, we don't have the scale and the breadth right now that some other fintech vendors have, but we have to start with our own solutions, our own currency, which is the Marriott Bonvoy currency, and combine this with cash and facilitate cash and points transactions. But that's where we start. But we can't stop there. We have to go much deeper to really allow for a retail shopping experience. And I can go for 6 more minutes, but Danny will not allow me to do that. But I'm happy to expand on that. But I just want to say, look, there is, and I want to also tell to the audience, there is a problem we all have to recognize, and we all have to get into the phase of embracing fintech as a part of our strategy. Fintech is the next frontier in distribution. It used to be all about how much we're protecting our inventory, what kind of rates we are giving and benefits we're giving to certain channels. Now add payments to the mix as a way to attract customers and share and create differentiation for your customer.
Thanks for that.
And then I guess from booking side, we have to take all of that, because that's the reality of how our partners work. And then we have to layer over our view of that seamless experience, right? Because I think we talk about seamless customer experience. For me, that's both seamless partner experience and seamless traveler experience, right? So we take the view of there that says, well, right now everything's tokenized and sent down to a PMS. And how do we then operate our payments in fintech, which is a critical topic for us, and make it work with our partners, right? I think, you think about the end results of payments for partners as reduced cancellation rates, reduced fraud, with the work we do on the kind of chargeback mitigation stuff. There's reduced operational costs and all that kind of stuff for the partner, which is important. But how do we do that in a way that then kind of works and connects through? And so that's an important one. I think from the traveler side, we talked about this a lot over the last 2 days, so I won't repeat over and over again. But I think for the traveler surprise, from the traveler side, we think about it as like there should be no surprises, right? The traveler should know what they're going to pay, when they're going to pay it, in what currency they're going to pay, and with what payment method they're going to pay. And those last two elements, which currency, which payment method, should be their choice, right? And so that's a big thing for us to think about, removing that friction from both traveler and partner, and then making that seamless in between. I think Q3 last year, 40% of our gross bookings were made using our payment platform. That was a record for us, right? But that's big because that's addressing the traveler need from there. And that's what we'll continue to focus on.
Very interesting.
So we have to take partner, aggregator, traveler, company.
That's why we're sitting where we
This is
are.
perfect transition. No, but I think most people here know TripActions as a travel company, and that's obviously how we grew up, and it's obviously in the name. But over the past several years, we've really been focusing on fintech and developing a payments and expense strategy and solution. And at TripActions, we've always been about solving traveler and company, corporate traveler and company needs, and really making sure that we create an amazing experience for corporate travelers on their journey. And so we quickly realized that there are multiple steps to this journey. Obviously, there's the shopping for flights, there's some of the servicing, but there's then the payments of flights. Mm-hmm. And that was sort of the first journey we went on, which is how do you create a better payments experience for people booking travel? Now for us, I wasn't joking. We actually have to work with so many different partners. There's the hotel side, there's also air, there's rail, there's car, there's all these different sources of inventory that come. And from a company perspective, being able to reconcile all of those transactions to the employee level, to the actual flight, to the trip. If you think about it, and I know I'm veering off from hotels a little bit, but think about a flight. You book that flight, 2 weeks later, you upgrade a seat, 2 weeks later, you check a bag. Well, how do you actually tie all of those transactions back to that original trip and back to the trip purpose? And so that really was our first step, is creating virtual payment technologies within the platform that tied all of these things together and created this really magical, seamless reconciliation ability for our companies and the travelers. But there's more expensing that happens on a trip, right? There's the ground transportation when you're there, there's the meals, there's the partner dinners and drinks. Yeah. There's a lot more that happens. And so we then sort of decided, well, you actually need more than just a virtual card, you need a physical card. And so we actually looked out there and saw that there really weren't that many corporate cards that allowed for automatic expensing, that allowed for the ability for employees to see their policy as they're using the card itself. And we sort of had this idea in the beginning, like, let's just eliminate the expense report. Let's create a card that is so good, that is so inherently tied into your policy, that you don't even need an expense report. So we built sort of this physical card that went with the virtual card. But then, this sort of shows our evolution. We realized you still need to expense things with cash. There are still times where you can't use your corporate card. And so then we built this fully integrated expense solution that ties all of these things together. And it truly is magical. Still, as a user of the card, you swipe it, you do a trip, and all of the information is automatically, seamlessly built into your expense. You don't have to do anything. You only need to take a picture of the receipt if your expense is above a certain amount. That's for IRS reasons. But all of this is really about the user, and it's about the company and creating this really magical, seamless experience that requires quite a lot of participation within the distribution chain, which I know we'll get into.
So to that point, Danny, so how do you all work with your respective suppliers or distribution partners to ensure that seamless journey?
Yeah, quickly. So there's quite a few on the actual payments and expense side that we need to make this work, right? So we want to eliminate any work from a traveler. And so a big piece of that is trying to automate the expense reporting itself. One of the most complex things to expense is a hotel folio. Mm-hmm. There's every night can have a different rate, a different tax. There's like 20 different taxes that you can have. There's the mini bar, there's the bar tab. And so it gets really, really complicated. And I think anybody who's done an expense report knows just how hard it is to get the cent to match. I remember with my old expense tool, like literally, it's like you need a rocket science degree to get that 0.02 cent to match. And that's really difficult. And so one thing that we've been working on with several of our partners is creating some sort of automatic folio reconciliation tool for us where we either build direct connectivity to a partner and we get those folios so the customer doesn't have to do anything. But we've also built really interesting partnerships with OCR, which are sort of digital receipt capture companies, where we've worked with them to build this amazing database of hotel folio reclamation processes where we can take all that information and reconstruct the hotel folio into an expense report system so that you don't have to do anything. Yeah. So that's like a perfect example of, working with various places within this distribution chain and also the payment distribution chain to create something really seamless and magical.
Yeah, I think ours is, honestly, it's about iteration, right? I think that we operate 3 different payment models for the types of accommodation that we have, right? So if you're talking about large enterprise partners, there's exploration then with our connectivity partners to understand about is there a need for a unique rate code for that, and if so, how do we make that work on the enterprise side? With the non-enterprise side, that may or may not be the case, and sometimes that might actually just be better delivered into a comments field and the front desk just trained on the operational piece of that, right? So you have to be able to adjust based on there. And then in the world of vacation rentals, it's completely different at that point. They want 100% of their transactions to be done via payments and for that to be remitted in a different way than a virtual credit card, right? So we've had to adapt and iterate over the years to find out what is that product that we offer and how do we do that with partners in mind.
And if I may add here, from a distribution perspective, we went through the iteration in our company where our professionals in distribution had to learn some basics about fintech and how the value chains is working. So I'll give you an example. Many of the conversations today with the travel management companies are now centered around how to get access to level 3 folio data. That's a conversation that didn't happen 5 years ago. Mm-hmm. And nobody knew how to have this conversation, right? On the other hand is many of our distribution partners embrace fintech as part of their growth strategy. And we had to learn to understand and to assess what kind of impact does somebody else's fintech strategy has on our own distribution strategy, our ability to differentiate our direct channels, but also what impact it has on our co-brand card business. Something that we never had to think about years ago, and that's now front and center. It drives way more interaction and collaboration across discipline. And I'm actually these days talking more to my partners in the credit card business in our company and in risk management and treasury than actually talk to revenue management, right? Okay. It's not always pleasant, but it's a different type of conversation. Yeah.
Good. Do you think any of these models or new payment solutions can actually drive channel choice, or that's beyond? I see.
Yeah.
It's shaking.
I don't know. I mean, I think they have an impact. I think anything which is hassle-free for the traveler, the consumer, however you want to talk about it at that point, has an impact. But I don't know whether it has so much impact that it switches off all of the other options that's available to somebody, right? I think it's important that any e-commerce retailer thinks about that level of flexibility, right? So booking, most people will know if you go to make your reservation, you have the option to pay now, you have the option to pay later. You can choose whether that gets then handled via booking or whether it gets handled directly at the front desk when you check in, right? I think providing that flexibility is important. And I'm sure there is an impact on there, but I don't think it's. I don't think it would mean that it would cancel out all of the other options right now.
And I think ultimately, and I think Chris made this point in his session earlier, we have a joint customer, right? And ultimately, it shouldn't matter how or where that customer is paying. It's actually up to us to make sure that we create a really seamless experience, because we are selling content from Booking, we're selling content from Marriott. We need to make sure that there is this interconnectivity between not just the booking information, but also how the payments get transferred between all the different systems. And so I think we need to do our part in the back end to make sure that we're facilitating all of, and I think you made this point, Alex, like we're all doing our own thing, we're all solving our own problems, but ultimately we are part of this interconnected ecosystem, and we need to make sure that we're having these back conversations to create that experience we want for our joint customers.
I do agree that a decision about channel choice or a brand is more multidimensional, and it goes beyond payments. I agree with that. It's loyalty and brand affiliation and affinity and all these kind of things. But I don't think we should underestimate the power of payments. I'm going out on a limb here and say the difference between Uber and a taxi company is payments. And think about our own preference or user behavior on how much we are thrown in by rideshare apps because of the convenience. You can see where the taxi is. You don't have to worry about pulling out your credit card and these kind of things. It has an impact, and the impact is really about, and I think Ian said it right. It's about frictionless customer experience. That's what it's all about. And payment is just a piece of it.
Agree, fully agree.
Yeah.
And actually, I think, just looking at the timer, we've talked a lot about payments. I'd like to see also what do you, for instance, Ian, in your case, Booking.com, what are you guys doing beyond payments as part of, as a means to improve this overall seamless experience?
Yeah, so I think so thank you for the Uber segue, because I can pick up on that a little bit, right? I think I've heard Uber a lot in the last 2 days, and I think that, maybe this is less about integrating capability, but it's certainly about distribution, and I think it becomes important for many people in the room. And I don't think normally at Head, I hear the word content a lot. Apart from the content workshop yesterday, I haven't heard it too much, right? But I think Uber, yes, super smooth, but it's micro-focused on that checkout process, right? What you're not going to do with Uber is you're going to choose whether you get an entry-level car or a black car, right? You are not going to then try to understand, well, what type of cars are available? What brand of car is this, right? You're just going to book it and go from A to B. And so you got to go a bit further up the funnel thinking about customer experience and that kind of seamless nature when it comes to hotels. And that's what I think where content comes in, right? And so I think, again, from Booking side, our take on it is, let's make sure that we empower partners to make the right strategic decisions. Let's make sure we give them the insight around the macro trends. Let's make sure that they are able to make the right decisions. But as a great example here, nothing to do with payments, but sustainability, right? Super important in guest choice. And if you're starting your journey looking at properties, but somewhere along the line, the distribution side of the people in this room haven't thought about that kind of content play around sustainability, you've already created friction for the person who has sustainability as an important topic that allows them to make their selection. So there's a whole load of other things outside of that micro-focused area about the simple clicking yes and having the payment from there.
It's funny, I was thinking as you said that, we're all lucky to get to the payment part of it, right? Like there's so much that goes into it before you actually swipe a card or you facilitate that transaction. And I think that there's so much interconnectivity between all of our different companies and all of the entities here that we have to get right for the customer, and really focusing on that customer experience to ultimately get to the point of transaction is incredibly important.
I read yesterday, it was an internal Booking.com piece of data that was there that said, we surveyed the LGBTQ plus community, and this was quite shocking. Like 82% of those people in that community felt like they'd had a less than welcoming experience on travel in the past. Now, luckily, I count myself in the 18 who never has, right? But 82% have. And so you think about initiatives like Travel Proud for us, which is certification that we give to hotels to allow them to help embrace that community and then display that badge. And clearly, for 82% of people, that badge becomes an important decision factor at the very beginning of their research.
Yeah, absolutely.
Fair point, yeah. Alex, I wouldn't like to miss the chance to ask you a little bit more about your distribution strategy, okay? It was clear for me that it's more about collaboration than anything else,
yeah.
but most suppliers, they try to drive business to their sites because it seems to be the lowest cost for hotel owners. Still, or yet, Marriott has a significant amount of bookings via OTAs, via third parties. How do you manage the guest purchase journey in or Marriott.com along with those in third party sites to ensure seamless experience?
Yeah, that's a fair question. Thank you. So I guess it starts off with actually rationalizing your distribution strategy. We all came a long way from the early 2000s to today, and the landscape has changed quite a bit. But in the end of the day, what we want to accomplish is we would like to create, maintain a healthy channel mix between direct and indirect channels for our owners and franchisees to create long-term profitability. That's as easy as that. But also, by saying that out loud, it recognizes that we want to lead with our direct channels with demand generation and booking growth, but also recognizing that we do partner selectively with distribution partners to help us to get access to a customer that either we are unable to market to or where it becomes cost prohibitive to market to. To some extent, the analogy that I always use in our owner community is about the manufacturing company. Distribution is nothing else but an outsourcing business where when you own a manufacturing company, you may hire somebody else to manufacture a piece of your engine because somebody else can manufacture that piece faster, better, more efficiently than you do. And when you recognize it, then you hire your distribution partners for that very specific purpose. And once you align on the commercial value of that purpose, then the distribution strategy becomes a very collaborative way to augment our direct channels. It doesn't mean that we are not hyper-competitive to improve our benefits that we're providing to our loyalty members and in our direct channels. We continue to build out a retail travel platform where we can do more than what you can do today. We're working through a large projects to deliver that. But it starts, you have to recognizing that there is a customer base out there that simply requires somebody else to tap into in order to access this customer base in a profitable way.
Very good. There's a bunch of questions coming to my head. I'm conscious on time. I'd like to ask something to you, Daniel, on you guys have a very unique positioning in terms of, you said, travel and technology. How do you see Fintech reshaping corporate travel and TripActions' role within that and the future of business travel?
Yeah, it's a great question. So most of the E is in the T, right? So travel and expense are so interconnected, and yet there are very few, if any, tools that combine all of it into one platform, right? And then you take that a step further. There are if you're just on the travel side, you have a TMC and an OBT, and there's broken issues between them. And then you have a payments company or a bank, and then you have a expense solution. And sure, there's APIs that integrate these things, but you have multiple different contracts. You have issues between all the different connections. For us, we really are the only global unified travel, all sense of corporate travel, and expense, all sense of expense, meaning payment, expense, et cetera. And this provides a huge amount of value to the corporate, meaning they only need to contract with one entity. They get all of their data in one place, everything from the trip, to the expense level. They can look at ROI based on a trip because they have everything consolidated in one place. And then servicing. You don't have to call one person for your travel, another person for your expense. If technology is broken, you don't need to call somebody else. You literally have one thing for all of your solutions. And from a traveler, they get this magical experience that is all interrelated, all tied together. It saves them a tremendous amount of time because everything is completely seamless and centralized. And it really is sort of changing the landscape in sort of this T&E world that we find ourselves in.
Can I ask you just one final thought before we close? Something that the audience can leave the room with. Maybe Ian, you want to start?
Yeah, a few people have said it before, but the power of partnerships is key here, right? I think we've talked about payments. I talked about 40% of them, but let's not lose sight of the 60% that we have right now at foundational level, right? And I think a lot of our hotels, many present in the room today, will be aware that on those 60% where we're passing credit card data, sometimes those are invalid. And they need to be reported manually today via literally somebody logging into an extranet and clicking a button. We built an API for this a few years ago. And I think a lot of the connectivity partners have adopted and built that API as well, but we haven't yet closed that end-to-end loop with everybody. And where we have closed it, that whole system is automated. And as that whole system is automated, then so are operational costs decreased for hotels as well. So I love the fact that we're talking about the future. Clearly that 40% is going to increase, but we still have 60% where there's potential for us to optimize processes and operational processes better. Yeah. And we should all work in better partnership to be able to identify how to do that.
Good. I need a final thought from you guys, but a shorter final thought.
Sorry.
So just none of us. Perfect. Alex, anything you want to add?
Make it quick, short. It's a message to the hoteliers in the room. It's important that payments is not only handled purely by finance and hotel operations, and business teams and distribution teams and marketing teams need to understand the impact of payments on your future business growth, and it will drive your strategy going forward.
Understood.
Yeah.
Super fast. So I think we're talking about payments when they work. There are times when they don't work.
Yeah.
And so that can be for currency, cross-border issues. It can be for certain countries, and I think this was talked about, that just don't accept certain forms of payment. And so we have to think beyond the traditional payment rails, credit card, virtual cards, and think about all the other various ways that you can pay that create a seamless, magical experience. And it's not easy.
Thanks, guys. You made it so easy for me. I feel we could have been talking here for another half an hour. There's no time for questions from the audience. However, encourage you to reach out to us after this, and happy to interact and carry on this discussion, okay? Thank you all.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.